I'm saying we
Sounds
could
good.
read all the accolades, but then we might not have time for the actual interview.
Yeah.
That's a problem.
All right, sounds good.
John, you want to shoot us off?
All right. We're back here today, The Baseline, Season 3, Episode 5, with the one and only John DiBartolomeo. Thank you for coming, man. We appreciate it.
Yeah, pleasure to be here, guys. Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah, we shout out Willie Workman. We're going to start it right away. He helped us out and was able to get you in today, which we appreciate. I like to say kind of at the beginning of every episode what we do here. We really are just guys who love basketball. We have, the privilege to be here and have a studio like this, and we love to talk to players about what it's like coming to play here. We love to grow the game of Israeli basketball. We want to bring as much attention to it as we can. From the guys we speak to, it's a great place to play, and they genuinely enjoy it. And if we can be a little part in making it something bigger on every day, we want more people to know about it. So that's what we're doing here. So welcome on the show. We appreciate you being here, and we'll get started right away.
Yes, sir.
Oh, thanks.
So,
That's a great message. I love that, and happy to be part of it now.
I had a lot of practice.
So taking it all the way back, why don't you kind of introduce us to yourself and like your family background, where you come from?
Sure. I was born in New York. Still got family out in Queens. Moved a bit around as a kid. Lived in New York, Ohio. Moved back to New York and Ohio again, and then we settled down in Westport, Connecticut. I would say maybe when I was like second, third grade. My family's still out there. That's where I go home. That's still where I call home, aside from Tel Aviv, and that's where I am every summer.
So was basketball always big in your family? Is this something that overall has been a big part sport, or is this kind of you started and you fell in love with the game and that's how your journey went?
I was exposed to all sports growing up. I think I was one of those hyper kids who needed to expend energy. My parents, took me to everything. They were very, very privileged. Played lacrosse, played soccer, played baseball, whatever I really had the itch to do, they would set up for me. But absolutely, fell in love with basketball above all else. But I didn't start focusing exclusively on it until I would say high school. Until then it was, in the spring it was baseball, and the summer it was all sports camps. But yeah, I got the itch. I got the itch early, and my parents just kind of kept me around the game as much as possible. And I'd say as the first in my family, though, to really be serious about basketball. Me and I have some cousins my age. My brother's 2.5 years younger, so we'd always get together and compete in whatever we were doing. But I was, the most serious, I think, when it came to playing sports.
And what was it like playing basketball out in Connecticut? Did you start playing AAU at a certain age? Were you on the varsity team? What was the high school basketball experience like?
The high school basketball experience?
Mm-hmm.
I gotta think. AAU. I don't remember when I started AAU. I remember it got popular a certain time. I'm so far removed now. From those days. It's hard for me to remember exactly when. But in terms of high school basketball, as a freshman, I made the freshman team, and we were really good. It was me, all your best friends, first time playing. Like we didn't have a school team in middle school, so getting to the high school level and playing for the school was something we were all really excited about. There was like 2 or 3 kids that got asked to move up to JV. Unfortunately, I wasn't one of them. It was a really, really tough time for me. Definitely cried about it for a day.
It's the origin story.
Yeah, definitely cried about it. But had an amazing time my freshman year. We were one of the better freshman teams coming out of Staples High School, which is where I played all 4 years. Staples itself, not known as a basketball school. Our goal every year was on the varsity team was to make states, which required 8 wins out of 20, and that was always a tough. We had the countdown on to get there. Sophomore year, I got to play JV, and I was one of the last guys to sit on the varsity bench. Never really got in until, again, we were towards the end of the season. We weren't really making anything, and I think I got my first like varsity minutes as a sophomore, maybe like one of the last like 5 games, and I got to play a little bit, scored my first points, got the itch to play high school basketball, and rejuvenated. And then junior, senior year, coaching changed, completely new system, and that's where I really got to kind of step up and play with the ball and have a big role, and really set myself up for college basketball. Because at the end of the day, when I got to high school and I was playing high school basketball, I always wanted to play in college. I never thought past college ever, but the goal was to go somewhere where I'd be able to play basketball.
So what did that recruiting process look like, especially, in the D3 sphere when you're there and you're playing? We know we have guys here all the time that are maybe top-tier recruits. They're going to, universities like Houston and all that, and they have a million things coming in their mail every day. It's the biggest decision of their life, where they're going to go, who's taking advantage of them is what a problem that a lot of the athletes we have on this podcast talk about. They want to find people they can trust. So what was the process like for you deciding to go to the University of Rochester and kind of getting recruited there?
Yeah, I don't think I have a lot in common with those guys. I wasn't, I would say, highly recruited. I think I got my first letter from Williams, which I was really excited about. First time, I had the idea that it could actually happen. I would play in college. Shortly after the Williams letter, the coach left, and I never heard from Williams again. Again, I wasn't recruited hard by any school except I think the coach over at Union really wanted me. Unfortunately, I visited and I just, for some reason, I didn't feel the connection to the school, or I didn't see myself there, and that went out the window. But I ended up only really visiting Union, Dickinson, and Rochester that I can remember, where I was I had a place to go play if I came there. I looked at other schools, thought about even going to a school that I wasn't recruited by, and just kind of figuring it out and going for the college experience. That lasted all of a day, and I was I absolutely want to play college basketball. And the Rochester interest came. It's always a funny story. It was just a letter on my desk. I didn't look at it for a while. It was one of the introductory ones they send out to players. Please fill out our online questionnaire. So I did that. I received a call from I think the assistant coach. His name was Jim Driggs. He told me that they were interested. Blah blah blah. And where the interest came from is they were recruiting a center from New Canaan, and we happened to play against each other one game, and I guess I played pretty well. And the assistant coach's father was the one who called and told his son that there's a player at Staples and maybe you should take a look at him. Once I visited Rochester, I was kind of sold. I walked around. I was this feels like a college campus. This is what I imagined college would be like. And, I walked into the arena. They call it the Palestra. And I thought it was one of the coolest gyms I had seen up until that point. So, when I left there, I told them I wanted to come, and, that was kind of it.
Something about it being in New York also kind of intrigued you?
No, not really. I was sold walking around the campus and the gym. Those are the two things that did it for me. I didn't have an extensive. It's funny to think about. Going to college is such a big deal, and it can have such a kind of. It can dictate a lot of things about your life, and lucky for me, even though I didn't give it a lot of thought, I ended up in an amazing situation, to be honest. But yeah, I mean, things just kind of work out. Sometimes.
You ended your college career ranked 3rd all time in career scoring, 2nd in assists, 2nd in steals, and 2nd in free throws. So ultimately, it turned out to be
like I said, it turned out well. But again, it was no. I think now when guys are deciding where to go, first of all, the whole landscape of college basketball is completely different. Right. I think in all divisions, but especially Division III then to Division I, and the guys you guys talk about to now. I wasn't looking at who really was on the roster, who was leaving, who was coming. There was no thought process there. Maybe there hindsight there should have been. I expected to get to Rochester and not play my first 2 years and make my way and get there as a junior and really start to contribute. And one thing led to another, and there was only one other guard that ended up being there that fall. And the coach was an old school coach. You have no idea who's going to play until the first game, and then the first scrimmage he named 5 guys to sit down, and I was one of them. And and that's it.
So your role there, obviously, you don't have this rock solid expectation of what it's going to be. At what point do you remember the day where you're really understanding that maybe you wouldn't have to wait as long as you thought, as you mentioned? And when did you understand that you were going to be a guy who's going to have the rock in his hands all the time and you're going to be in charge and, have to kind of take a little bit of a leadership position on the team? Like, at what point in your college career did you realize that?
Yeah, well, so like my first year I was coming as a freshman, like I said, low expectations, happy to be there, just, excited to be playing college basketball. College itself is just such a drastic transformation, the independence, you're with your friends all the time, just having a good time. In terms of basketball, yeah, my first coach that I went there, the head coach, he didn't really recruit me. He was a big guy. He told me he liked to look his players, in the eye. If he could, people told me if he could play without, guards, he would. So he, when I knew I had a chance of playing, is the assistant coach who I had a relationship with. He was also from Connecticut area, like he played in the area growing up. He came up to me and he's like, listen, take care of the ball, make your free throws. Run the system, you could play this year. And before then, I was just, trying to stay out of the coach's way. He's an Army guy. I didn't want to get yelled at type thing. So that was the first year I kind of knew, that first moment I knew I could kind of play as a freshman. And then that freshman off season, after the season, we didn't have a great year. I think we went like 15-10, which for Rochester standards to that point wasn't up to expectations, I think. The coach decided to retire. I think we had like 17 players. I think half of them were transferring already, leaving. We had like 8 guys who were recruited that ended up staying. New coach came in. And he kind of just changed the whole system around, and he kind of told me I was I was going to be a main guy for the system, for him, and to be a little bit more he was always on me about it, be a little more selfish, take a little more on, do a little more with the basketball type thing. Like I said, I was surrounded by not only great people at Rochester, but like my best friends. And I think the people who picked me up the most through college and kind of helped me grow through college on and off the court were my friends, always pushing me, always telling me I was better than I thought I was type stuff. And that was a large reason why from each season at Rochester, I was able to kind of improve and make the career that you kind of spelled out.
And in your second year, you're talking about your second year where you got that role, and you played varsity in your junior, senior year, also a little bit sophomore year.
In high school or college?
In high school.
Oh,
and
in high school.
Being a point guard, you're like not just a guy with the rock, you're also a leader, right? And you have to lead your team, tell the guys where to go if they don't know what they're doing. Yeah. Like every 2, 3, 4, 5 player has to know what they're doing, but the one needs to know what everyone's doing, right? Yeah. So as the main point guard on the team in your second year, still very young, how were you able to like become that leader? And did any of your friends, like you were saying, or coaches help you with that?
In high school as a sophomore?
In college.
Oh, in college as a sophomore. No, in college I played all 4 years.
All 4 years?
All 4, yeah.
You were the starting point.
Starting point guard from day one.
So in high school, how did it make you like really become a good leader in college also?
In high school there was high school was like my first like real kind of basketball, but the jump from high school to college I thought was like significant in terms of coaching. Like I thought I knew something going into college, and the amount and everyone always told me this, like once you get to college, a lot of your growth is just going to be with like playing with the guys, picking up on things, playing with just high level basketball players. And I absolutely felt that. Like I thought I knew simple things about basketball, about spacing, about defense. We can go down the line. College was an absolutely different level, even at the Division III level. But that took a lot of growth for me. I mean, I don't think as a freshman playing varsity in college, I was absolutely I was a starting point guard, but I was not the leader on the floor type thing. I was running kind of through the offense, through the coach of whatever he needed. I was trying to do it to a T. A little bit, especially at the beginning, I played kind of within the box, and as our relationship grew, me and the coach and my players, I was able to kind of expand that and kind of have some breakout games as a freshman. And like I said, from sophomore year on, with a bigger role and with the guys I was surrounded, it kind of just came naturally and all together.
So at what point in that college career, as you mentioned, when you said you were in high school, you know that you want to play college, is what your next step is, but you're not thinking past college. So at what point in your career when you're in college are you really starting to consider your professional options, where you're going to go, who's in your ear that's telling you what's an option available to you? At what point are you trusting your family versus an agent versus someone else? And was there someone at Rochester that helped you with those decisions?
Yeah, absolutely. My family, like, they wanted to help, but it was purely support and emotional. They had no idea what overseas basketball was, and neither did I. We were totally up to the advice of my coaches, and eventually, at the end of the day, I did hire an agent. But I didn't give overseas basketball a thought until, I briefly my junior year, I thought about it because there was a kid from New Canaan who just finished his senior year and he was going to play in Spain. I was like, sounds amazing. That's awesome. I'll give it thought. But there was nothing to do then. Everyone tells me, enjoy college, play basketball. When the time comes, if you can, we'll see what's out there. My senior year finishes. I have a good season. I play well. I get some accolades, things to like kind of bring my name to the top of the list of Division III players who maybe can play professionally. And my assistant coach at the time, Jeff Turan, had played overseas, and he told me, you can play overseas. There's no money in it. I think he played in Germany, like 3rd or 4th division. You work a second job. And then I ended up getting, that spring I got an offer from a team in Germany. They were Pro B, I think they were, which is 3rd division. I think it was for like 600 euros a month, and I can coach kids 3 times a week for another 150 euros. And I was like, awesome. I'm thinking about taking it. Before I do that, I talked to this kid I told you about from New Canaan, Will Hanley. I talked to his agent, who's based in Spain, and I show him the offer. I'm like, this is, what else do I need to think about? And he wouldn't let me. Thankfully, he wouldn't let me accept it. And he told me kind of to come to Spain for essentially a tryout that summer. And, I ended up using him. I went to Spain. They took care of me while I was there. I played in 3 or 4 games in Spain and just outside of Madrid. I played well, and that's when I really got interest from some Spanish teams. And that's when I was like, all right, this is what I'm going to try and do for the next 1, 2, 3 years max.
And then from being a tryout player in that summer, and then signing with Palma, you were the guy. You were the top scorer on the team that year, and you guys ended up making it to go on to the second division in Spain.
Yeah.
So what was it like going from maybe taking 600 euros to being the top scorer, the leader on the team as a rookie in your professional career?
Yeah, it was again like a wild, weird path. So I was playing in Spain in front of the Spanish teams because my understanding of how overseas work is, it would be easier, I thought, in my head to like, Spain is the best place to play. In my mind, I'm thinking ACB is the best league in the world. It's easy to work within Spain and kind of work my way up than to go around and play in these other leagues. And that's what my agent kind of recommended. He's like, you want to be in Spain, you got to start in low division Spain. So yeah, I play well at this thing. I get an offer from Saragossa, which is an ACB team, for a 3-year deal. But they don't have to pay me any money. It's like, if we bring you, this is what it'll be, and we're going to loan you out until then. And they tell me, I go back to the States after playing in Spain. They send me an offer to go play in Mallorca. I have no idea what Mallorca is, where Mallorca is. Me and my friends are together. We look it up. We're like, oh, it's an island. It's one of the Balearic Islands. It's gorgeous. Like, all right, I'll sign. Nothing to think about. And I get there. I'm one of, I'm an import player. I'm one of 2 Americans. The other one is kind of he's a 35-year-old big man. Kind of took me under his wing a little bit. Kind of showed me the ropes, and also the local players there, because it's an island. Almost everyone on the team, and again, it's 3rd division. A lot of these guys have other jobs. They're all from the island, and they kind of took me in and took care of me. I was a rookie. I didn't know what I was doing, and thankfully, they gave me a roommate. One of the only other players who wasn't from the island was from Santiago, Spain. His name was Antonio Pantin. He was probably close to I think he was in his late 20s at the time, and he was just like my lifeline. You know, I went to him. I had no idea how to like grocery shop, cook for myself. I couldn't drive stick to get around the island, and he took care of me, even though he absolutely didn't want to. But now we're good. Now we're good friends. We stay in touch. He came to my wedding 2 years ago in Israel. Like,
Amazing.
but in terms of basketball and trying to be lead this team and be a main player, again, it's just at the end of the day, like I think a lot of these overseas jobs for Americans, it doesn't. I think it comes down to basketball. At the end of the day, it comes down to can you make the adjustments? But the hardest part, I think, is making like the adjustment off the court. Can you fill your days? Can you feel fulfilled? Kyle Hines, I think, wrote a book, or he had a bunch of players write it together about like the adjustments he had to make to play overseas, and how the most important thing was like embracing the culture and you're going there. Yes, you're going to play basketball, but not just to play basketball. You're going there to live. Like, this is your life. Don't be counting down the days until you get back in the summer. And I think that advice is kind of what helped me feel comfortable off the court and then play better on the court. Because at the end of the day, I had the level to play for the third division of Spain at the time. I was a good enough player to play there. But the adjustment has always been off the court.
Right, we talk a lot about the mental side of the game, and coming overseas, it's super difficult. A lot of these American guys, they're leaving home for 10 months, getting put in Serbia, Russia, who knows where.
Yeah.
And, like, it's very hard to adjust mentally, just like you're saying. But then from Spain, those 2 years, I guess you found out that you can get a passport in Israel.
Yeah.
What was that process like, coming to Haifa and actually ultimately finding a home in Israel?
So I had spoken to a couple players who had gotten passports to play in Israel, and you can play as a local, and that was always something that my agent in Spain was talking about. Like, at first we went to Spain because we thought we were going to get Italian citizenship, and then once I got my Italian passport, I can maybe get on to an ACB team. That was like my plan, or at least try to get to Saragossa by year 3 of that contract, and then see what happens. I thought probably I'd be going home for a regular job by then.
Can I interrupt you for one second?
Yeah.
Is the Israeli league at that time a little bit less intriguing to go to rather than now?
I never thought about going to Israel ever. Like, my mom's Jewish, so Birthright. I had friends who did Birthright. I have a lot of Jewish friends who said Israel's amazing. I had no interest of ever going. Like, it just wasn't on the map for me. In terms of playing Israeli league, definitely didn't think about it. I would think, Italy, Spain were probably the top of my list, just based off of, again, I wasn't going overseas necessarily to make a career. I was going overseas to experience something different, to play basketball for a living, to have an experience. It wasn't to spend the next 15 years of my life, abroad. In my adult life, I didn't expect to be doing this. So no, Israel was not an option for me. I didn't think about it. I didn't know much about the Israeli league.
Was Judaism a big part of your life growing up? Like, was this something that was very relevant, or not really at all?
No, not at all. My mother's Jewish. My father's Catholic. My father and his family way more religious. So I spent way more time, going to church than I did, ever since. I wasn't bar mitzvahed or anything.
We'll do one after the show.
So yeah, it wasn't a big part of my life, which is again, like, funny because I had a lot of Jewish friends, and I was always jealous when they went to Hebrew school. I went just one time to observe and see what I was missing, and then that was it.
You weren't missing much.
No, I wasn't missing much. But no, it wasn't a big part. That's probably why Israel wasn't really on the map for me. But coming to Israel, that's the original question. I knew some players who had gone. We'll bring Willie back into this. My agent found out my mom's Jewish. I can make Aliyah. I still wasn't sold on coming to Israel, just like anyone who, not anyone, but a lot of people who just read about Israel in the news and have never been here. You have, a certain belief of what goes on. And, I was nervous. I was talking to my teammates in Spain. I was telling them about this offer I had, because I was signed to go back to Palma for one more season. If I didn't didn't move to a first division team. So I Skyped Willie. He was playing. I think he was playing in Apol Tel Aviv at the time. And he just gave me the rundown, the Israel that I see now. How nice it is here, how safe it is, and etc. And he said I really had nothing to worry about, and that he thinks I could do well here. If I have the opportunity to come, I should. That plus my grandfather was really, on my mother's side, he'd been to Israel, I think, like 50, 60 years ago, and he pushed hard for it. He thought it could be a really cool experience for me. He thought if, this, playing as an import was holding me back, like without having this second passport professionally, he's like, you work so hard. If this can really make a difference, going to Israel or not going to Israel shouldn't be the barrier that stops it. At least go and try. So after my second season in Palma finished, I flew to Israel before going back to the States for like essentially a trial, but also a tryout for me for the country. Like, can I see myself living here? Will I feel comfortable? Again, I didn't feel comfortable doing it alone. My dad met me in Haifa, and we spent, I think, like 1 to 2 weeks there, just hanging out in Israel. I had a couple workouts. Then they wanted me to watch a playoff game. Then they wanted me to meet the owner and talk to the coaches. And at the end of that 2 weeks, I flew back home and I got an offer from Maccabi Haifa, and it was for it was a big jump than what I was going to get playing in Leboro, and I decided to take it. That's not to say the first couple months living in Haifa I wasn't regretting my decision, but but eventually it got much better.
So those conversations you're having with Willie, at what point are you guys reunited then in Israel, playing for Haifa together?
When I saw Willie when I got playing in Haifa?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Was he there with you at that time?
Not the first. No, I got to Haifa. When did I graduate? 13, 14, 14, 15, 16.
Carry the three.
Yeah, 15, 16, I think was my first year in Haifa. Willie was playing, I want to say Willie was playing in Ashdod, I think.
He's been all over the country.
That guy.
Yeah, Willie's been, that's why I said that's who you call if I have a question.
Right.
No, so 15, yeah, so he's in Ashdod. Again, Willie and I had this like funny relationship. Like we never really hung out. We knew of each other, through the D3 circles. We almost played in some like all-star thing together. Our senior year, he wins the championship. He always holds it over my head. And even my first year in Israel, I don't really see him. I run into him one time at night in Tel Aviv, but he doesn't want me to share that story. And then he signs my second year. I'm signed back to Maccabi Haifa, and he signs very late in the season. And then we realize we're gonna play together.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So there was no like planning or talking like we got to get on the same team. I don't know how he ended up getting there. So late in the season, such a huge acquisition for us right before the season started. And then, we had that up and down year in Haifa that ultimately ended, really into a really special season. Although we came up one game short, one of the best years and most fun years I've had as a pro.
And then getting there in Haifa, like now you had your high school in Connecticut, you had University of Rochester, New York, Spain, and now you're in your fourth different area of basketball, different kind of play style as well. What did you attribute most to your success in Haifa? And was there something about the off-court experience as well that kind of helped you thrive here?
In Haifa?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Haifa was big for me. Important, huge step, I think, in my life and in my career. Grateful that I ended up going there my first year being in Israel, because I see how hard it can be to get in. I think so much of overseas basketball is like opportunity and fit and stuff like that, and I ended up in a amazing position to kind of slowly get in and then play my best basketball, because my first couple months in Haifa I was horrible. I didn't realize the job security some of these Israelis have as opposed to foreigners, because I still had the import mentality of like, if you don't play well, you're getting sent home. I constantly in my head thought I might get sent home just because I was playing so poorly. But I think part of my growth in Haifa professionally on the court came from especially the coaches. My coach there was Rami Hadar and Ofer Rahimi, And Rami, again, one of those coaches that like struck fear in me. He had kind of a no bullshit attitude during practice, and then off the court, once I saw like the love and care he had for his players, I became super comfortable playing for him and in his system. But he lit a fire in us and in the team. And it was the first time in my career where I kind of got labeled as like a good defender, and I think that kind of helped me through my career to get on the court, to play, to be in these situations. And that is all because of kind of the way Rami coached us and what he expected from us. A lot is said. I think what separates me sometimes is people talk about motor and keep playing and energy and stuff like that, and that came, a lot of that came from just my fear of Rami. But one of my best coaches that I've had, and just an amazing person, and he kind of helped me, I wouldn't say hold my hand, but it helped me kind of take the transition from Spain to Israeli basketball and then to the next level, because as I said, when I got here, I wasn't prepared for it, and on top of that, my off the court life got much better. I met my wife. Now she's my wife. She wasn't at the time. I met her kind of halfway through my season. I had things to look forward to outside of basketball, and doing things and seeing the country with somebody else, and that was a lot of fun. And her and her family took really good care of me. It was the first time I kind of felt at home outside of my home, which was big for me. Like we've talked about, and I'm sure everyone tells you, is like we said, how important it is to be comfortable and to be happy off the court. And once I kind of had my feet under me, my basketball kind of just hit another level.
Reichman University alum.
Yes.
His wife.
Yes.
Hey, there we go. Shout out.
And I also just wanted to ask, in Maccabi Haifa, you guys had that preseason against Kobe and the Lakers.
Yeah.
So I want to hear what was it like.
And Vince Carter too. Vince Carter.
And Vince
So
Carter.
that was the big one for me. Like when our first game, like I was first of all so excited to do the NBA trip. I was never experienced anything like that. Kobe, I knew I was gonna be like in awe of, and even preparing, I was still in awe of Kobe. But when I saw Vince Carter, I didn't expect to be as much in awe. And he was like the one. He came over to us. He took pictures of us after the game. And seeing him, I was like, growing up with Vinsanity and stuff like that, I was completely starstruck by him and Kobe. But also, yeah, an amazing experience. Those experiences are so like, they're unique and they're tough in ways. Like you want to kind of stay locked in. You want to like try to prove yourself. You want to like measure yourself with NBA competition. You want to stay like kind of in the zone and focused on the basketball. But at the same time, it's like this amazing experience. You want to embrace everything. You want to look around the arena. You want to watch the players you want to embrace everything and kind of remember everything about the experience. So, a fun balancing act there. But I mean, we got crushed by LA. Memphis was close for a while, but overall, an amazing experience. All my family, my friends flew out. So
That's awesome.
just amazing experience.
And you're basically in Canada when you're in Rochester, so you're close enough to Vinsanity.
Yeah,
So that's pretty
He
cool.
was- yeah.
And did he just dunk all over you guys? What was the story? Or he was going half?
He was going. I don't even remember. I was like, again, in awe.
He was
Kobe,
a
I
bit-
think, scored 20 in the first half and then didn't play again. And,
You get to guard him?
I guarded him for possession. I got my picture. I always have it. But yeah, I got switched on to him. He tried to post me up. He didn't get the ball.
Yeah.
I think good for me. Yeah, exactly.
Lockdown.
Exactly.
That's pretty amazing. So we talk a lot about leadership, I guess, with your story, because everywhere you went, that's been something that's, very relevant to your career as a captain and throughout your career. So when you show up in Haifa, like not only are you succeeding, you're winning the league MVP at the time, and you're a relatively new player. You've never played in Israel before, really, not a team before you get to Haifa. And, immediately you have this very important impact. And what's it like being a foreign player at that time, coming to Israel, and then having to lead that team or be a very vocal part of this team where you have Israeli players that have been there for 10 years. You have veterans, guys that have been all around the world, and you're showing up as a relatively young guy, and you're getting the keys, you're getting this opportunity to lead the team. So how were you able to do that, being such a young guy and like control the team and be able to be a leader?
My first year in Haifa, I didn't really think of myself in that way. I very much came in with the, again, like the no expectations, I'm going to do whatever is asked of me to be successful. I'm going to do whatever they say to get on the court, and from there I'll kind of figure things out. Like I said, Rami ran a very tight ship. It was known what was expected of you, what needed to be done. If you did these things, you would play. If you didn't do these things, you wouldn't play. It was refreshing for me, you know, coming from a team sometimes where you know, things would kind of get out of hand, maybe from a lack of discipline or a lack of leadership, and it was refreshing kind of to be in this kind of program. That being said, we had, like you said, a very experienced team. A lot, at least I didn't feel like a lot fell on me. I felt like I was able to kind of come in and do what I needed to, and just to help the team. I didn't feel like any sort of crazy pressure to organize, to lead. And it was, I came in, like I said, I don't want to say handheld because that's not there, but a very comfortable position to kind of work my way in and be myself. You know, that year we had Gregory Vargas, who was kind of the focal point of our team, and he had although he didn't speak much English at the time, he was one of the leaders on the team, especially like emotionally. We had a veteran Israeli in Hanan Coleman, who was our captain, who kind of would be the organizer, also emotionally be the filter down from Rami to the rest of the players. So again, a lot did not fall on me. I was able to kind of just focus on basketball, focus on adapting to a first division. You know, it was a big step up in terms of basketball level. You know, the players that play in the Israeli First League, you know, I remember coming from Spain and looking at all the rosters and seeing where all these guys played college ball, and I was blown away. I was excited to play against, you know, Brandon Trish, who was at Syracuse, and all these guys. So I was very much focused on, you know, getting in and kind of getting a foot in, surviving, and proving I could play at that level.
Right. So speaking of, you know, upgrading your level each year, you eventually get this interest from Maccabi, and they're, you know, once you're playing Maccabi, you're in EuroLeague. You have one foot in a water that's much more intense than the Israeli league, which is already intense as it is. So tell us about that. After your success at Haifa, they approached you, they offered you a contract, and what were the details that were involved in that, and how excited were you to get the chance to play in EuroLeague?
So Maccabi, my second year in Haifa, again, like a lot of ups and downs. I think we just make the playoffs, then we have an incredible playoff run, and we come up a game short. I want to say, like, within a couple days of the season ending, I had an offer from Maccabi, or a meeting with Maccabi. You know, it was the decision to go to Maccabi it wasn't too tough, to be honest. You know, they gave me I thought about going out. You know, I had different people in my ear of what I should do after playing in Maccabi Haifa, whether to leave Israel. You know, at the end of the day, my plan was to come to Israel, play the Maccabi Haifa contract, get the passport, and then go back to Spain, go to Italy. Like, when I came, that was like in my head the idea. But you know, Maccabi Tel Aviv is one of those teams. You know, when I started this journey, I always told myself, you know, I'll play until, you know, I will try to get to the highest level I can, and, you know, if it's not growing anymore, you know, if I'm not growing as a player, if, you know, the money's not getting better. You know, my first contract was like for, you know, $1,000 a month. If the contract's not, and the money's not getting better, the level's not getting better, you know, I'll call it quits. I don't want to kind of this to drag on. I'll start the next phase of my life. And then Maccabi came with, you know, an offer that at the end of the day gave me everything kind of I was looking for it was top EuroLeague. It was top level Europe, and that was, at the end of the day, was where I wanted to get to. You know, they were coming off a very tough season. You know, I think it was like 4 seasons they hadn't been to the finals of the Israeli League. They were struggling in Europe. They were wiping kind of the slate clean. I think Itai Sega was the only player that was staying. So I was like, all right, if there's a time to go to Maccabi and kind of, you know, assert yourself early, this is probably the best situation. Otherwise, you know, usually there's 6 returners, 7, something like that. So, you know, considering all these things, considering, you know, I had an Israeli girlfriend now who I was into, you know, moving to Tel Aviv seemed like the logical next step. Also, because switching countries, every time I switched the location, you know, everyone adapts at different paces. I'm very slow at adapting. You know, my first year in Spain, it took me a little while. When I moved to Maccabi Haifa, like I said, first 3 months, I was tough. So, as you get to these higher levels, the window, I think, for adapting is even shorter. So I thought, getting to the next level in Europe, and I can do it, an hour away, I think I'll be ready quicker. So that's why I decided to go.
So we had Joe Alexander on a few weeks ago, and he tells us that Maccabi's one of his teams. He said the 5 teams, one of them you can't refuse.
Yeah.
So to me, that said a lot, because Joe is a guy who was in the NBA. He had I'm sure he could have played anywhere.
Like a lottery pick, I think, right?
Yeah, exactly. 7th, 8th pick, I think. Yeah. And what is it about Maccabi? I mean, of course, they're a quality organization, but tell us about the way they're run. And you have a long tenure there. You've been there for a long time. There's lots to talk about. But what is it about Maccabi that makes it stand out from other organizations around the world that makes it so quality?
Well, again, going into it, I saw, you're a EuroLeague team. That was the main thing for me.
A few years back, they just won the championship.
Yeah, 2014, they won a championship. They have, they have like brand recognition all over the world. Even me, who doesn't know, I knew very little about EuroLeague. I knew very little about Israel. I had heard of Maccabi Tel Aviv. They have this reach around the globe. That's quite impressive, and to be a part of it is something special. So it was, like I said, it was never a decision I thought I'd have to make in my life, whether or not to go to Maccabi Tel Aviv. So when the offer came in, it was a 3-year deal. It was kind of investing in you as a player. I asked myself, what else am I looking for right now? And no one else can satisfy that.
Right. Getting that 3-year deal, that's also like good security.
I would say so. I thought
overseas.
I would say so too. I didn't think it was actual security. Like I tried to lock it in. The way I was taught, or the way I thought about overseas contract, nothing was really guaranteed. Even when I moved to Tel Aviv and I was on a 3-year deal, I wouldn't let my girlfriend buy anything for the apartment. I said, we don't know what's going to happen this month. We don't know what's going to happen this season. We could be out. They just released 5 coaches and 11 players.
Oh, wow.
The year before. Like they're not right now. They're not an example of stability. So
just a sneaky way to order takeout every night.
You get there the same year as Oded Katash, or he's already there?
No, I get there. No, I'm before Katash.
You're before Katash.
Veteran, come on.
I mean, no, not his first stint in Maccabi. His first stint was before me. His second stint, I had been there for. I think his second stint he started in my year 6 for me.
So I wanted to talk about it. You talk about Rami in Haifa, amazing coach. You said he helped you a lot.
Helped me a lot.
And then now you've been with Oded for what?
This is my 3rd season.
3rd season with Oded?
This is my 3rd season.
Yeah, okay, so 3rd season with Oded. And Oded is known as like a very world-renowned coach, right?
Amazing coach.
Amazing coach. So what do you take away from these different coaches, and what have you really loved to embrace from Oded at the end of the day?
Well, all the coaches are definitely different. And in my second year in Haifa, I played for Ofer, which was like a complete 180 from Rami. All these coaches are different, and they're good in their own ways. I think what I learned from all of them together is the importance of kind of coaching to your style and being who you are. Mm-hmm. You're with these guys every day for 10 months. Like it has to be authentic. Guys can always tell kind of when you're bullshitting. With Oded is like I would say like a basketball. What's the word? Savant. Like I think he sees the game different than a lot of the players, and I think he's like a step ahead of us in a lot of ways. Like there's times where he's explaining things in practice or he's going over things in scout, and I don't know sometimes if he realizes how advanced he is. He's saying something that's simple in his head, and it takes us like 2 or 3 seconds to kind of understand what exactly we need, and it works. So that's what I've been most impressed of with Oded, honestly.
And also moving back to Maccabi Tel Aviv in the beginning, coming to a big team, playing with a lot of big names.
Big names.
How did you adapt to that? How did you kind of like take yourself away and kind of like remember that at the end of the day you're playing basketball?
Yeah, for me, I thought that was one of the biggest transitions coming to a EuroLeague team. The EuroLeague, obviously an amazing level, but the biggest adjustment for me was kind of being surrounded by all these great players, and how I'd say like less room for error when you're playing. Like you really need to play the right way. You need to understand spacing, why we run plays, who we want to attack, and this is all stuff I kind of learned after the fact when I was with Maccabi. Because in Maccabi Haifa, obviously we ran I would say different things, but there was, how do I say this? I'd say there was like, for me playing alongside these high level players, I had to be much more efficient in everything I did. I had to be in the right spot. I had to know where the ball needed to go and when, and that was kind of the biggest adjustment to me. I think sometimes in a smaller club, you can be I could freestyle. I'd say freestyle a little bit. I can take a little bit bad. I can take some questionable shots, and I think when you're playing at the level of Maccabi Tel Aviv, and you're surrounded by, my first year I had, I was playing with Pierre Jackson and Norris Cole and Mike Roll. Yeah, he wasn't there yet, but yeah, and Amari, and it's like we gotta get the best shot for the team right now, and we have to play with one kind of goal in mind for that, and that was what I tried to do when I got to Maccabi. And then from there, like I said, kind of get my foot in and then get more comfortable in my role and then start to branch out.
Right. A lot of players come on and they say like the international basketball play and also just like college, it's more of like a chess match. So everything that you're doing is for a specific reason. You are cutting at that time to open up that guy at the three, everything like that. But also sometimes I think that people say that they come to certain clubs here in Israel and getting that comfort of being able to play your style of basketball also kind of like makes you expand your game. So do you think at times it was difficult for you to like kind of like not be able to play your own style, or were you able to fit both of them?
I'd say at times. I mean, I've always prided myself on kind of being coachable and wanting to learn. So whatever situation I kind of come into, I'm all ears. Whatever the coach wants, whatever the team wants to run, I'm going to do my best kind of to do it the right way, and then from there, kind of we can get more creative and figure things out. But first and foremost, I'm going to do the things I need to do and what's asked of me to get on the floor to help us be successful, and then we'll move from there. The adjustments the biggest adjustments I had throughout my career from college to pro to higher level pro has been the speed of the game, the off the court adjustments. Those are the things that really were the hardest for me. The style, yes, it changes, especially like I said from even I think some of the smaller clubs in Israel play a looser game similar to the States, especially in the Israeli league. There's a lot of foreigners. I think it's a little more like that as opposed to when you play in Maccabi, and it's a little more, I would say, European. And even in Europe, Maccabi's seen as like the G League team or the NBA team in terms of style as opposed to these other European teams. So yes, the adjustment, I find it difficult sometimes, but not never. That's not, I think, the most challenging part of coming to these teams.
Yeah.
So when you get your first step into this EuroLeague atmosphere, as you said before, what was that first taste like for you? It's finally the top European competition. You've made it in a sense. So tell us a little bit about that first EuroLeague experience, maybe the first season that you were playing EuroLeague teams. What surprised you and what stood out in facing that level of competition?
My first season in EuroLeague? Yeah. I realized I wasn't prepared for EuroLeague. I think, I had played, like we said, Maccabi Haifa the year before. I feel like sometimes maybe I needed a step in between Maccabi Haifa and EuroLeague. But yeah, I mean like we've been talking about the tactics, the size, the speed of the game. Even now in EuroLeague, I feel like if I'm not at 100%, I can't be on the floor. I can't help us. Just if you mess up a read or you mess up a scout and we're playing for one thing and you do another, these teams will punish you. And that is something that I notice absolutely in EuroLeague as opposed to a step lower in Europe, is every single mistake is capitalized on and using everything you can to limit your opponents. Like something like using fouls, something growing up, never heard about, never thought about, something I learned more as I got to higher levels. Steal, like these little things to steal 2 to 4 points, to steal 1 or 2 possessions, how important they are, because these EuroLeague games are so high intense, and they're so competitive. They're separated by you think you think the last 2 minutes decide the game, and it doesn't always have to be that way. They can be the first. Always say, play the first two like you play the last two. And these are things that I was exposed to in EuroLeague that I wasn't I didn't beforehand.
So moving on from there, there's a lot to discuss, but one of the things we were really curious about is, we always talk about the future of Israeli basketball, and then Deni Advia shows up in Maccabi Tel Aviv, and he's 16 years old, 17 when he shows up for the first time,
Maybe, yeah.
Young guy. So being there and being someone in that environment and understanding how he grew and how that works in the future of the Israeli game. So tell us a little bit about your relationship with him, or when he was on the team, and what you noticed from him that maybe said this is a guy that can represent Israel in the NBA.
Yeah, I mean, Danny was a kid when I was coming up, a young kid. He was youth, and then he joined us for practices the next year, and then he was all of a sudden playing EuroLeague. Seeing Danny's literal growth was amazing. He's an incredibly hard worker, Danny, and it's no accident that he is where he is. Even me, who've seen him, throughout these years, and who's seen his growth and how hard he works, I did not know he'd be at the level he is now at. How old is he now? 23,
something like that.
23, 24, and I'm really excited to see what comes of him of next season, and I think he's doing a great job of representing Israeli basketball. Not just by the way he plays, but I think he has he has that charisma that people look for in stars, and I think he could be one of like the European faces of the NBA. And it's really exciting to see. Danny was my roommate on the road, so to see him go from like the young kid who wouldn't sleep by himself to an NBA superstar is really fun.
Definitely.
Danny's got aura.
Yeah. Tying those things together about what you said about the EuroLeague and making a mistake could lead to a layup on the other end. Yeah. And Deni being Israeli European, Maccabi Tel Aviv MVP, right? Mm-hmm. Jokic, Luka, Giannis, all these European guys in the NBA are thriving. Maybe they kind of have the sense of like not wasting your dribble, not wasting a certain possession. I think that it kind of attributes to why EuroLeague is so much more interesting, because every game matters, every possession matters, right? So you fuck up on one end, that could like determine the whole game, right? So it's very interesting that you say that. I also wanted to ask you, you played with so many like amazing players on Maccabi. Who's like one guy that stands out that you played with?
Stands out for what? Like character, talent. What do you want to?
I want to hear one who stands out for being a player.
Like most talented player.
Most talented player you played with. Also I want to hear a locker room. Locker room character.
We got a bunch of characters. We got a bunch of characters.
Amari's got his books in the locker room. Is that true?
And also NBA All-Star. Like he probably the most talented I played with. It was towards the end of his career. I didn't get to play with him. He came after I got hurt, so we didn't really get to play together. So I won't say Amari. It's really tough. The most talented.
Sorry, we won't tell the guys that you don't bring up that you didn't say them. So don't worry.
I'd say the most talented. Like we're just going off of like pure talent, not anything else. Just pure basketball, roll the ball out talent. I'd say probably Pierre Jackson.
Oh wow.
He was super tough, and I had to, I'm also probably biased. I had to guard him in practice and stuff like that. Yeah. And he would chill half the time, but when he wanted to play, he was tough. He's so quick. I felt like he was just trying to get me with as many moves as possible. He'd be by me and then hit me with another one. He could pass. He was quick. He was explosive. He could shoot. He had a lot of weapons.
This is towards the early part of your Maccabi.
It's my first year in Maccabi.
First year.
Maybe also that's why I was like blown away.
Could be, but do you think that the EuroLeague basketball, also Israel basketball, two different questions, but do you think that the leagues have like become better, more competitive, more talent since you've joined Maccabi Haifa back then?
So it's tough. So, again, it's it's all perspective. Like the first year I came into the Israeli League, I thought it was incredible. Mm-hmm. And again, this is my first experience at first division pro level. And I'm looking at all these names, and I'm like, wow, it's, and again, I had a different understanding of basketball. I'm looking through a different lens. I would say it's continued to grow. I say the last, it's hard because the last 2 years I think has been a little different with because of the war. You're not going to attract the same kind of players I'd say in the smaller budget clubs. But then if you look at the clubs like Jerusalem and Maccabi Tel Aviv and the talent that they've been able to bring the last 2 years, I think that's higher. So I think there's a little bit more of a gap between the top and the bottom now.
Right.
But the top being the top being better than when I think I came originally.
Right. That also has to do with ownership and stuff. Ofer Yanai with a pull,
for sure. Ofer Yanai, exactly. I mean, he came in with some money and a vision, and he's committed to it. His throughout the season, they didn't give up kind of on that vision. His mid-season signings of Itudis and Yam and Blakeney, I think had a large reason why they were able to win the Euro Cup. I don't know without those guys if they win the Euro Cup. And then Edelson in Jerusalem also they have money to spend when they want to, and you see that with the extension of Harper and stuff like that. And I'm sure
3 years.
And I'm sure it turns into this sort of this rat race type thing. It's like, if they're going to bring this, we have to bring this, and vice versa. I don't know if that'll trickle down to all clubs, but certainly at the top right now, it seems like these clubs are pushing higher and higher level.
It's very interesting because you also have an organization like Herzliya where I would believe they have the money maybe, and they can grow. They're playing in a high school gym now, right?
Right. Yeah,
they want to build an arena just like Netanya just did, right? Mm-hmm. Netanya came up from the second league. There's Holon, there's Ramat Gan. There's so many teams that have the potential to really make it out.
It is interesting, and I think not to downplay the situation in Israel, but of course it's fresh what happened, because of the war. As hopefully as things get better and we get further away from that, and more people are, because I do think some people are still nervous. My family hasn't been here in 2 years. Mm-hmm. They used to come 3 times a year to visit me and to watch games. So I think as time progresses, I think Israel is a huge spot for these overseas players. Guys love to play here.
Being a captain, a guy who's been on the team for 8 years, mm-hmm. guys like Trevion Williams, right, or mm-hmm. Jimmy Clark moving from Herzliya to Tel Aviv. Yeah. During the season, these guys coming in, do you have to does the coach or the organization want you to kind of introduce them to Israel, kind of not downplay, but just actually give them an understanding of what's going on to kind of not convince them come, but to make sure that they're okay?
Yeah, I think that the club tries to do, and I think especially now because it's so in the news, I think they have to give kind of that discussion beforehand before guys come here. But I mean, like Jimmy, who's already been here, it's easy. Right. Trevion, these guys, they've assimilated really well. They're enjoying themselves, and I think it also helpful. Israel's one of these overseas basketball markets where it's so condensed, it's so small. Mm-hmm. The country's small. All the guys are in essentially one area. They can all talk to each other. They all know each other. It makes the transition, I think, so much easier. I can't imagine having that kind of community when I went overseas, how helpful that would have been.
Right. Would you say that you've found your overseas home by this point?
I mean, what are you asking?
Jersey's going to be in the rafters.
You can answer that yourself. But yeah, and I realize how I should, sometimes I try not to take that for granted. There's always what would be my situation here or here, and if I tried this, what would my path be? But it's important not to take for granted. The overseas job market can be chaotic.
We talk to guys 12 different countries.
and I would say that's more normal than my situation. Right. Staying somewhere 2, 3, 4 years is max. So to be able to play in, I think this is my 12th year and 3 teams is again, and sometimes I'm like, oh, I wish maybe I should experience more type thing, but it's also the ability to feel this comfortable in a place so far from home is I know it's unique and
also,
special.
You do get to travel the world with the EuroLeague games.
Yeah, but we don't get to experience it like that. Everyone says that. It is the coolest cities, but
Monaco.
Some cool places for sure. I had a question. So about your injury, right? 2019.
Which one?
Well, we talk a lot about, with these athletes, how recovery, especially when you're overseas, I guess it's for you a little bit different because you've built a life here. But when you're playing and you're injured and, it's hard to keep up in that time, we like to ask athletes really about their perspective and their mental. As you said, it's all about the mental. So when you're sitting on the sideline at those times, what are some of the things, that got you through the injuries you've had throughout your career? And for you, have you found yourself struggling in those moments, or are those times where you're able to kind of lock in and study some things that you're not paying attention to when you're playing?
That's a good question. Yeah, it's extremely difficult. I mean, if you have a person who, in a normal situation, it sucks being hurt. Anyone not feeling well, all they want to do is feel better. That's number one. Not just basketball players. And I think it depends. Like, I've had an injury where I'm out 6 weeks, and it's really tough. But like the lights at the end of the tunnel, and I'm working out, and that's great. I've almost embraced it. I've had times where I was cast, and I tried my best. Times some are better than others. Where I embraced it, I was like, all right, I'm gonna go all my workouts. I'm gonna work out one hand. When am I ever gonna get to do this again? So let me work on this and try to use this to my advantage. That being said, I haven't always been able to maintain that perspective. The injury you're talking about in 2019 when I tore my pec, that's a 6-month injury. And when you're out for 6 months and you're looking down a timetable like that, it's daunting, and it's really difficult, especially being, as much as I feel at home in Israel. At the end of the day, I'm here to play basketball. So to be here and to live here and to be away from my friends and my family, and not be doing the one thing that I'm here to do is extremely, extremely difficult. Mentally, you try to find ways to fill the day. You set a goal for your rehab that day. You try to pick up interests and hobbies outside of basketball, which, everyone, I don't know if everyone, but you go through that, like, that thought process. All right, maybe this is the time I focus on what am I going to do after basketball. So I give that some thought because I'm forced to at this point. And, right now I know I'm coming back, but there's going to be a moment where I don't. So, in trying my best to kind of dive into those situations is what I did. And the funny thing, not funny, but unique thing about that injury is, like, halfway through COVID hit. So everyone was doing nothing. So I was like, all right, you know what? We're all in the same boat. I'll attack my rehab. I'll try to read, and, I'll try to meditate and stuff like that. Again, doing my best to kind of be, get small wins throughout the day, as we like to say.
Also, after basketball, if you ever need, you could always go to Germany and coach kids for €100 a week.
Yeah, so I'm gonna let them know I'm still available.
You talk about filling your time with the injuries. Also, when you're not injured playing here, you guys play once a day, right? Or you guys have your games twice a week because you have the EuroLeague as well, which is just Maccabi, right, here in Israel, and you have the European competition. Yeah. But a lot of times overseas teams play only once a week. But as a guy playing twice a week, and then you have your practices that are maybe an hour or two a day, right? Mm-hmm. What do you do to fill in your time throughout the week? And does that become difficult, especially during the beginning of your career when you weren't married?
Yeah, it was my breakdown of my day is completely different now than it was 10 years ago. Right. But yeah, when I'm playing, well, first of all, when you play in Spain, it was completely different. I wouldn't say basketball culture, but when it comes to schedule and practice, it's different than Israel. Like in Spain, we played on, I would say, Saturday nights. Sunday be off. Monday, Tuesday, Thursday were doubles. Wednesday, Friday be one. Friday be the day before the game. So there was not too much downtime. Mm-hmm. I would remember going my first 2 years. I go to breakfast, practice, lunch, nap, practice, dinner, bed. It was very much like that the entire time. When I moved to Maccabi Haifa, it was different. It was like that. Rami was very insistent on practices are hour and a half. We're going to kill you for hour and a half, and then you're on your own.
Which do you think benefits the overseas player more? Because you talk a lot about the off the court.
It depends on the player. But if it's a guy who's going to take care of himself and he's going to be professional, I prefer to do like I did in Maccabi Haifa. Because every morning I would go into the gym, I would do what I needed to do, as opposed to sometimes we would have these agility workouts or these weight room sessions in Spain, and not that they weren't good, but sometimes it wasn't. I was on a program that I didn't. I wasn't wasn't tailored to me, as opposed to Maccabi Haifa. I can work on what I wanted to work on. I can set up my weight room time on my own. I can set up my extra shooting on my own. And I think, it helped me. I think a lot of my, I think I grew a lot in Maccabi Haifa on the court, just in terms of skills and learning the game, because I had this flexibility to kind of learn and work on my own schedule. And I had coaches, obviously, that helped me with that. But that was huge for me. In Tel Aviv, it's completely different schedule, especially now with no home games. There's no downtime.
Right, because you're flying all the time.
You're flying all the time. The schedule right now, is really, it's not sustainable, to be honest. There's no downtime. It's tough when you do get it. You're in between this, do I catch up on my sleep? But this is my only free time. I want to go do something type thing.
Do you think this attributes to why maybe it wasn't such a successful season this year?
I mean, we try not to, focus on,
of course,
the excuses,
yeah,
but I think
no,
it's a fair question, and of course, if you're gonna my biased opinion, but also I think an unbiased opinion is, of course, it affects us.
Right.
We're first of all, no home games is really, really tough. It's a big advantage for us, I think.
What was the record that we said? I think we talked about this 2 years ago. Your guys' home record. You guys lost like 2 home games.
Yeah. But no, we were in that gym. We were, we were extremely, extremely tough to beat. Even when we weren't playing like these games, I think that we played in Serbia, where they could have we lost like a couple games. We lost like Barcelona, Olympiacos, Pana. These games are coming down to the last 2-3 minutes. Even when we're not playing well, the crowd instills like some, I wouldn't say fear, but they make players a little anxious. They make them second guess. And we come down to 1-2 possessions at the end of the game. It changes it. Even like our last game against Pana, I don't know what they ran in the fourth quarter, and I think Tamir or someone hit like a jump shot. I think like that shot in Menorah, gets the crowd back, and it stops the run as opposed to just being a blip and they go down and they score again. It's these little things. And then off the court, I mean, I'll speak from, personal, because I don't want to put, say everyone goes through the same thing. Traveling all the time, of course, has an effect. I'm someone who I love doing like my extra work. It's important for me to get my extra shooting in, to get my extra weight room session in, to get my whatever I need. If I feel it gives me confidence, I feel like it gives me an advantage, and bottom line, it brings me to the game, I feel like, more prepared physically and mentally. It's been really hard to stay on that kind of schedule with all the travel. It's just you don't have the time or the opportunity to kind of do everything you need to, and that it's hard. I don't want to complain about the situation, because obviously a lot of other people are going through way more than we are, as opposed to flying to play basketball games for money. But yeah, I think it had an effect on our EuroLeague performance this year in terms of wins and losses. And then the situation also, in the first month we lose Jordan Lloyd, who's our.
Do you think these things with I don't want you to obviously talk for them, but like, you think that these players like Jordan Lloyd, like Wenyan, and I'm pretty sure there was another player.
We can fill a roster with the players that came and went this year.
Saban, I was gonna say.
Saban, Alpha Kaba, Daryl Macon, Wenyan.
Right, but the big guys, right? Jordan Lloyd, Wenyan Gabriel, and Saban Lee, right? These are 3 top performers, right? They weren't. I mean, Saban was playing very well. Jordan Lloyd didn't end up playing, and Saban played pretty well. Wenyan was not playing up to his level, right?
Right.
Do you think that, like, obviously anyone could just say it, but like, do you think that maybe they said something to you, being a captain, that this kind of made them like they couldn't do it anymore, and that was like the ultimate reason of leaving?
What's the question? The ultimate
because of all the travel and.
I mean, I think it has an effect. At the end of the day, I think all those guys' situations were different. I think Jordan was here when the Iran thing happened. It was his, a tough first experience in
Definitely.
Israel.
Yeah,
You
I'd say
know,
so.
it's a-
Not even first experience.
he-
Zach Hankins also, right? It was on Pol Yerushalayim a couple years. I think after the Iranian attack, they left.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So, I think if Jordan was by himself, maybe he could have waited it out, type thing. But he has a wife and he has a daughter, and they want to live together. Like, again, I have no judgment for he came on the bus. He spoke to us all from the heart about his situation, and Jordan is a very special guy. I was really excited to play with him after playing against him for so long. So it's unfortunate we didn't get to continue together, because I think he's top level player, but also one of the most professional, amazing person you're going to meet. So I think his situation was one thing. I think Wenyan, I actually don't know what happened with the Wenyan situation, because I get all the tidbits from media. Like I heard Oded didn't want him to leave, and then they had this opportunity and they wanted to sign him. Panda needed a big and they wanted to buy him out. So I don't know whose decision it was, whether it was Wenyan wanting to leave or him agreeing to it, or if it was Maccabi wanting to, or Panda just came in and was like, hey, we want this guy bad. We'll give you whatever you want. So although Wenyan wasn't playing his best, I think he was improving. I think he's a great player. I think he would have been amazing for us, especially at this point in the season. Oded's system takes a bit for the bigs to get used to. And I think Wenyan really would have flourished in it, but again, he's starting on Pana. He played well last night. They're up 1-0.
They're great.
In the quarterfinals.
Can we talk a bit about the basketball system? Don't reveal to the other teams, but
About Oded?
About Oded, maybe about Rami a little bit. Some things that you picked up basketball wise on the court.
Again, they played. They play different styles. Like Rami wasn't as offensively focused as he was defensively focused, and a large part of our game was we're gonna beat you up and down the floor for 40 minutes. We're gonna hit you. We're gonna foul you. If you get to the middle, you're gonna get hit, type thing. And that was a lot of our identity was on that. And then on offensive end, we relied on Vargas to play pick and roll. It was a lot of set game. Oded is way more movement fluid system, and as opposed to like Oded and Giannis, like a complete 180. Giannis wants to call out a lot of plays. He wants to target a lot. Oded doesn't. In my experience, he's more so like, we're gonna play our system, and through that we're gonna have reads and we're gonna have advantages, and there'll be some freedom there. That's the biggest contrast for me.
You think that at times the players have some freedom to take a guy one-on-one?
Oh, absolutely.
Under Oded?
Absolutely. Oded, I don't think I've ever seen Oded yell at somebody for like a bad shot.
Really?
Oded is, and I saw this in his teams, and I was always like, wow, it must be fun to play for him, because I felt like his teams, especially offensively, come with a lot of confidence, and I've felt that. I don't think people, He's never said, I'm not going to tell you not to shoot this, but I want you to know what we're looking for here, and where, when you can get this shot also. And I think basketball today is shifting more so towards Oded's system of a lot of movement and a lot of kind of offensive flow and playing through that.
So switching tracks a bit, I really am curious about this. It's a bit of a sappy question. But when you look back at your tenure at Maccabi, or we hope it continues for a while. But when you're looking back when it's all said and done, at least at this point, what are you most proud of from your time at Maccabi as a captain, as a leader, but also as a group from your time there?
Oh wow! What am I proud of? Damn. I mean, it's hard. That's hard. I don't like to talk about myself.
You got to do it.
This is what Willie was talking about.
Yeah.
You gotta get out of your shell.
Yeah. I mean, I'm as myself and as a team.
Either or.
Yeah, because like, which team are you talking? Like,
overall, if there was a particular team that you had a successful year at Maccabi, and this was the core group of guys that you were incredibly proud of, or even yourself and your own accomplishments.
Oh yeah. Well, I'm proud of myself in the the longevity of my career and playing at this level, I guess. I think I've had good seasons, I've had bad seasons. I've had good moments. I've had bad moments, especially in Maccabi. You know, anyone who plays in Maccabi will tell you it's a roller coaster. You know, and it's not like season to season. It's week to week. You know, it's a very I'd say emotional place. You know, you can win 2-3 games in a row, and everyone thinks they're buying Final Four tickets, and then you lose 3 in a row, and they are asking, you know, when we're going to bring a new player or get rid of the coach. So I think, you know, being able to kind of withstand the noise and the emotional baggage that comes with the playing at that level, and you know, of course, you know, throughout my career, I've had some tough injuries. You know, I missed close to a year of playing. I think a lot of times, you know, that can kind of send a player into retirement, and you know, I'm proud that I continued to fight through that, and then, you know, even when I came back, I wasn't at the level I felt like I should be at, and continued to play through that. And I think, you know, one of my best seasons came after that moment. And if you want to talk about one of the teams, you know, I was most proud of, Oded's first year was a lot of fun. One of the best times I had playing basketball. But I think the team last year, I'd say in terms of being proud of a team would be that team, just because of what we went through together. You know, this year we're seeing how hard it is to play the schedule and to play in the EuroLeague with these, I would say, disadvantages. And, you know, to finish last year with, I think it was like 20 wins, and to finish 7th, and to go to a 5th game with the eventual champions playing without arguably our best player. Just so many things kind of went against us, and we still, I think, had a very successful year. And at the end of the day, we finished it also with a championship against a very good team, which, you know, doesn't always happen. So I would say, and again, it might be a little bit of recency bias, because it's the last one. But I think even like 20 years from now, I'll be proud of that team.
That was a really fun one. That was
Yeah,
a
I
great.
remember.
That was a great
Yeah,
year,
I mean, it would have been a storybook to end it with a Final Four, and I really think we had a good chance to do it. But like I said, we talked about at the beginning. It's plays here and plays there, and we were battling uphill all year.
Yeah, no, it was amazing to watch as well.
These guys also, like, from like a fan's perspective, you could say, watching Maccabi Tel Aviv last year, we could see Wade Baldwin, Bonzi Colson, Lorenzo Brown. They're all like, seemed like they loved playing here.
Yeah,
right?
they did. You know, we had 1,000 meetings last year just because of, you know, team meetings, just because of the whole situation and figuring out what was going on, and they did. You know, I remember, you know, having talks with Wade, being, you know, like, he's like, I'd be here for, you know, given the, and it goes back to the same thing. You know, Wade by himself, he could withstand, you know, the situation in Israel probably for a little longer. He has a wife and 2 kids. Right. Things change as you get older. But you know, Wade loved it here, and he had an amazing situation here, and he knew that, and I think he wanted to stay. And I think that's why it was so, at the end of last season, it was so like, I was proud of the team, but also, you know, I was a bit upset, because I thought we had an amazing group of guys who wanted to stay together, who wanted to play together, who wanted to continue to kind of see where this thing took us. And you don't always get that in overseas basketball, the kind of same core for an extended period of time. But you know, it was other circumstances that ended up dictating what happened to the team, not basketball, not anything that was going on in the court or in the locker room. It was other things, and that's what made it so
special.
Special, but also, you know,
bittersweet.
a little upsetting.
Okay. As we wrap up, we tend to ask guys, like, if there's something that you can tell maybe your younger self, or guys coming up now who maybe are even D3 players, D1 players, and they are looking into this overseas basketball and lifestyle, what's some advice that you would give them?
Oh, the overseas market, I think it's going to be tough overseas because of what's going on in college. But, you know, anyone coming up now, or if I were to talk to my younger self, I would have to go back, you know, to what I spoke about earlier about off the court. And wherever you decide to go overseas, wherever it is, to go there with the understanding and the mindset, like, I'm going to live there for 10 months. I'm not going to just go suck it up for 10 months. I'm going to go live there. I'm going to try to experience it. You know, like be where what do they say, like be where your feet are type thing, like experience everything you can there. And I think more so because it relieves some of the pressure off of the basketball part. These guys that get jobs overseas, I'm convinced that they have the talent to play, especially when they get into these first jobs, these lower levels. I think that they all have the talent to play at that level. That plus, you have to be open, not just to the experiences, but you have to be open to learning and to adjusting to the overseas style. I think, the guys that go in and embrace, on court and off court have the most success, because also coaches and clubs, they can feel that if you're making that effort, that you want to be a part of the team, that you want to be a part of the place that you're in, that you want to be a part of the culture, that you want to learn. And I think that they'll have more patience, and take more time to kind of get you up to that level, because they know how important it is to have the right mentality in these situations.
Well said.
That's amazing. And so before we get to your bar mitzvah, we normally do this thing of a shot clock segment at the end of an interview.
I did want to ask real quick, you were just about to say about the overseas market with the college and NIL. You think that's like going to kind of hurt overseas basketball?
They're making so much money in college. It's hard.
I don't see how it can't. I mean, I don't know the situation. I'm very removed from basketball in the United States at this point. I don't know even if Division III guys are moving. Like, I saw a Division III guy into the transfer portal just recently. So I don't know if there's money at those levels. I don't think there are. But if you're a Division I player, and I always thought, just to rewind a little bit, I always thought the Division I players had the hard, like not the hardest, but I always thought like I was lucky coming from D3 to play in these overseas, like these beginner teams, not beginner teams, I'm sorry, these lower level teams, as opposed to someone who played high D1, because I was making no adjustment. Like I played Sunday afternoons with nobody in the gym, and then my first game in Palma is like we were playing on one of the blue courts. There was only like 300 seats, so I think that adjustment was easier for me than someone who played higher level. And now on top of that, you want to add someone who's making what's off
you're
the
at
cusp.
a top
I think you're getting
school. You can make
even
$300K to $1 million a
even
year.
the eighth guy in the rotation's making.
That's what okay. So I didn't want to say a number and be like totally off. So yeah, I'm saying if you're making a couple $100,000 to play in the States and to play in, not to downplay European basketball or some of these smaller clubs, but the facilities, everyone talks about the facilities in the States at these places are NBA, they're professional level and more. So to ask them to make the adjustment, like we talked about, off the court and on the court, and take less money and play at a lower level and be away from home, I don't see how. I mean, I hope some guys do it, and I hope it doesn't get hurt too much, but I don't see, if I'm just being honest, if I'm a player in the States and I'm making that in college, I don't know how I don't go to the G League first. Like my first job in Palma, I think was for like $1,500 a month. So it was an 8-month season. So I made, $12,000 for the season. Like if I can make that in the States, or maybe, I'm making much more in the States, I don't see how I ever come here and even try.
Right. For now, I see some like older guys who maybe recently retired coming to overseas. I saw like Isaiah Thomas was just talking about like if Lorenzo Brown needs some help next year.
Oh yeah.
So there's always a lot of players that are coming over here, right? Amari came towards the end of his career.
Yeah, but even guys at this, they're going to, Amari went to Jerusalem and Maccabi and IT's probably talking about going to EuroLeague teams. Okay,
right,
that
so
I understand.
But
like these even like the Herzliyas or the Nessionas trying to get guys who just left college to come for, I don't know. I know in Haifa, I think guys were making like, I think the cutoff, they try to keep guys under a certain cutoff for, I don't know. Let's say it's $90,000. Like I think it's going to be hard to fill that job with these kind of guys. That's also, I mean, I hope I'm wrong.
I hope so too.
I hope I'm wrong, but I just, the whole market is just completely shifted, so it's hard to know what it's going to look like. I think we've had two extremes, like the non-paying, and now like this, just
paying everyone.
Also, like I don't know if there are limits or I don't even know. They have agents and managers. I think like
there's like a football player that just signed like a $4 million contract.
Yeah,
right. So I think there's somewhere in between that they probably need to get to kind of make sense. But it's
still
also
fresh.
Exactly. It's all so new, so they're kind of just playing catch up and trying to figure it out as they go. But
Well, this is amazing. We're gonna wrap it up with a little segment that we do, like rapid fire questions.
Rapid fire. Okay.
Yeah. Put on the shot clock, 24-second shot clock. This time I have my computer, so I can not fuck it
I
up.
feel at a disadvantage.
We're asking you, so you just gotta remember everything about your entire career right now, and if you don't, it'd be embarrassing. All right, who wants to go first? You, John?
Are you gonna
John?
You're gonna go
We're
back and
switching
forth.
off, asking you
Yeah, we're gonna
questions.
go
Oh, you guys making it as difficult as possible.
Everybody knows everything about us already. We're not as interesting.
Okay.
All right, let me
All
know
right.
you're ready.
You ready?
Who's going first? Me.
Yeah. 3, 2, 1, go.
Favorite EuroLeague stadium?
Ooh, Awaka.
Get a steal or hit a three?
Get a steal.
Italian food or Israeli food?
Italian.
Best teammate.
Longest Jake Cohen, best teammate, Angelo Cagliaro.
LeBron or Jordan?
Jordan.
Favorite basketball sneaker.
To play in,
Yeah.
Ja 2's right now, but favorite is Kobe.
That's good. That's
All right,
nice.
Nice.
Did we cut it off? 24. That
It was
good.
actually like exactly 24.
Yeah, normally we're a little light, but
we have to be strict on the on the bet.
So all I'm gonna say is that we appreciate you coming on. We really do, and we think everything you said is so valuable. And if this message can get out to kids listening and anybody who's been inspired to play overseas, and you're obviously a great guy to know and talk to, and just to hear your story is amazing. So we appreciate you coming on.
Oh man, thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you for having me. It
Thank
was.
you.
I hope you guys got some good clips that you can use.
We'll figure something out. But
No, this is very fun. Thank you, man. We appreciate it.
thanks very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.